welcome into Carpool with Ben, folks. Continuing the virtual edition, and we've been in this whole pandemic, quarantine, self-isolating, solitary confinement mode. I hope not, but we've all been in this kind of just different kind of space for a little while now, and something that's really great, a public service that's out there, being done by Cat Country 98.1. Or you might have heard me from time to time, just saying, you're filling in, is Wellness 411, and just so happens they have a doctor on staff over there. Well, I call her a doctor. She should be paid like a doctor for all the great services she does. Courtney, Kelley, host of Middays, but you're also, what is the official title? You're a clinical...
I'm a clinical therapist, but there's many ways of putting that. I'm a licensed mental health counselor.
Okay.
I'm a therapist, I'm a counselor, however you want to put it.
Right.
But yeah, basically I help people with mental health issues. And it was kind of funny because I'm also the midday host at Cat Country, but I have my other life where I'm a mental health counselor.
Sure.
And I haven't really merged them together until now.
Well, I mean, I'm sure there's always been a reason to do that, but now more than ever because of the way things are. So before we start talking about some of the ins and outs of what we're dealing with now, how did you get to where you are now, both as the mental health side of things, but also the radio side of things? Because it's a dual track, and it's interesting.
It is, yeah. It's kind of interesting, yeah. So way back in the day, I was really interested in entertainment, in acting, and I picked up a book, and this lady said, hey, if you can't find acting gigs, what you should do is just do something to work on your voice and your presentation and connection with others. Get into TV or radio, right? She made it sound so easy, like just walk in.
Right.
And I literally did that. I picked a station in Providence, and I literally walked in and asked them for an application.
Nice.
But the funny thing that came out of that was someone that I actually knew, I just happened upon, she gave me advice to go start at a college radio station. From there, I was able to make my tapes, and I got into professional radio a few years later. So it was always kind of, my first thing was acting. I got into radio, fell in love with radio, continued to do acting, but then I also was always trying to help people go for their dreams. So I was someone who, I ran off to New York, I was in LA for a while, trying to pursue my dreams, and I always wanted to hear about what other people were doing to get to their dreams and what kind of barriers they had and how I could help them. So the counseling thing just kind of came in. I became a life coach after I kind of made peace with that I was not going to be a famous actress. I became a life coach when I moved back from New York, and then I started to go into motivational speaking, all the while still doing radio on the side. And then I decided to go back to school for counseling just to learn more about mental health. And I just started really falling in love with it. And I became a counselor from there. So all of it makes sense. It kind of all comes together. But when people initially talk to me, they're like, how did that work?
Well, I mean, there's a number of, professionals out there who do have some form of a broadcast background, whether it be, people that you commonly see like the Dr. Oz's, the Dr. Phil, the doctors in general, or, right. Dr. Laura or different people who have maybe a satellite show or TV. Yep. You are, though, what you do with Cat Country is you just making people happy with great music throughout the day. But as this has kind of evolved and shaped and it's constantly changing, you have, and the staff over there have really taken the opportunity to use the platform in multiple different ways, stretch, as a lot of people are doing right now, right. And getting it out a couple times a day with the Wellness 411 segment. So talk to me about that.
So that's the thing, like during the middays, I love the fact that I can help people with some escape, like just some fun, let's play the music, let's talk about some things. But the Wellness 411 is just a great platform to give some advice, some tips, just some support as to what's going on right now, because there's so many different emotions, there's so many things that people are going through that this is just a great opportunity to normalize that, to validate people's feelings as to how difficult this is, but to also give them some solid feedback and some tips on things that they can do to make it easier for themselves getting through this. But yeah, so I love the fact that I can kind of provide both. I can go and, kind of go with the education piece and also the counselor hat. But then I love that I can also do kind of the fun music, piece during the day. So I think there's a value for both of it, both of things that we need right now.
What is there's obviously no silver single one size fits all solution, but if you had to say like 2 or 3 of the biggest tips out there to dealing with people, not only dealing with themselves, but also if you have kids, in the recent days, we are now hearing that governors of Massachusetts, of Rhode Island, and I think it was close to 40 states have said, you know what, we just can't safely in good conscience put kids back in the classroom until we establish more guidelines and know more about what's going on.
Right.
So what are those 2 or 3 kind of basic, very surfacey, I shouldn't say surfacey because it goes a lot deeper, but what are those things that we should be doing not only for us as adults, but for those young kids as well?
Right. And that's the thing. It's like there's so many different tips and so many different things out there and so many tools, but really it comes down to you need your supports. You also need to have a space to be able to validate, like get some validation on how you're feeling. So if somebody, if your kids are coming to you or if as adults you're coming to each other, you're talking about this, make sure you're giving that support and being like, yeah, I get it. Like, I hear you. That can go a long way. Just understanding what's going on with other people and with the kids too, giving them that and say, yeah, this is really tough, buddy. Like, not trying to sugarcoat it. You're just trying to be there with what they're feeling. So really, we all need that validation and that support. We need supports around us. Right now, this is too tempting for when people are getting really overwhelmed. They're doing more isolation, and we're being told to be isolated to a certain degree.
Right.
So that's really tough. We have to kind of fight that. We have to make those contacts each day. We have to reach out and talk to people for like quality support. Texting is great, emails, but sometimes you need that phone call. You need that video chat. You need that. That's going to go a long way to help people. And then we also need to think of a couple things that help us with coping. What can we do to distract ourselves right now? What's meaningful to you? An activity that you love or something that you can do for someone else. We need some distraction from some of this. And I keep telling people too, like a lot of my clients, limit the news. It is good to be informed. You need to know what's going on, but information overload we don't have any definite answers on things. That's making people more overwhelmed too. So really kind of limit how much news you're taking in each day. And if you feel like it's getting too much, go out for a walk, go do something else, call a friend. Definitely that's important.
Well, those are incredibly valuable points and all excellent advice. I am giving the similar advice to friends and family. Look, news is great. Internet web videos are awesome. Let's face it, that's kind of how I make my living.
What you do.
But you can only take that in small doses because it's like a nutritional diet. I love ice cream. I could eat it all day long. Shout out to my good friends over there at Warwick Ice Cream. This is empty, by the way. Don't worry. I thought I was
going to get a special gift.
I'll send it in the mail with some dry ice. I put it right in between Nairobi so they can fight over the container there. But if all I did was eat the ice cream all the time, obviously I I'd be in worse shape than I am now. So you have to have that balanced diet. And in some cases, I'm talking with some people, and I say, go for a ride, go for a drive. And they say, well, where am I supposed to go? The cool thing is about southern New England and Rhode Island, we have these really weird, places, like Saunderstown, Weekapaug, Kickamuit. And when they look at you, they say, well, where is that? You just look at them and you say, go find it.
Yeah, right. There's your assignment today.
Get in a car. Put on some music, Country 98.1. I think that was the old jingle. Yeah, it's the jingles around there somewhere. But go for a ride and just breathe. Get the fresh air. And you can do it safely without coming within, the guidelines of that have been prescribed for us. But it is so critical. How do we self-monitor or self-regulate how much we're going to share with kids and internalizing it, and how important is it for us to get the feedback from them?
Right. And that's the thing is so on one hand, it's like we want to be able to, when we have adult conversations about what's going on, or we have our own worries, maybe we keep that separate from the kids so that we're not always involving them in that. So if there's something distressful, we kind of can talk to, our partner or someone else, another adult, to kind of get that out and figure out how you want to cope with that. And what I'm kind of advising people is, when you are going through something, it's like you have to have some good coping, right? You have to have some healthy coping. And now it's even more on parents to show the kids how to have that healthy coping, because if the child is getting anxious, if the child is like kind of acting out because they're just so overwhelmed by all of this, we need to be able to say, hey, listen, this is what I do. I take 5. I have meditation tape. Hey, let's do some deep breathing together.
Sure.
Teaching them is so valuable. So it's showing them that it's okay. It feels scary, but we're going to get through it. And this is what I do. So that in another way, it puts that kind of pressure on parents in a good way to say, hey, I need to make sure I'm practicing good self-care, good limit setting, and good coping, so that I can teach that to my child. So I think that is a benefit both ways. There's a lot of resources out there too, especially dealing with talking with kids. CDC website, they have some great tips and stuff, but it's very difficult.
Sure. How important is it as we go through this? And I'd love to say we're 3/4 of the way through it, halfway through it, 99. I'd love to say we're through it, but the unknown is one of the toughest things. But how important is it even now to begin journaling these kind of our days and what we're feeling, what we're going through?
I think it's really important. Now, some people don't resonate with writing, and that's totally fine. And I say, hey, maybe it's more physical. You need to go for a run or a fast walk, or you need to get out and about, that kind of thing. But for a lot of people, gratitude journaling, what is going well? Our brain will focus on the negative. We have a negativity bias. It's always looking for the threat so that it can figure things out and it can protect us. The problem with this is we don't know the ending. We don't know to the extent of all the things that, we need to fix, and we also can't fix it. So it's like we need to give our brain a break and balance it out with some positive, like really like on purpose. We have to practice this, some more positive thinking, reframing things, looking at it from a different angle. But it's really important to try to balance it out, like you said, with journaling. Sometimes just journaling through the feelings gives you a place to put it, so you can kind of be like, all right, let me go do something else right now. I'm kind of a release. Before you go to bed, journaling, like I call it a brain dump, but it could be like a worry book. Getting some of those worries out in a notebook, put it aside so your brain knows, okay, we'll pick that up tomorrow. Let's get some rest right now. That kind of thing. But yeah, really important.
It's funny because I've had ADHD my whole life, and one of the things about ADHD is your brain plays tricks on itself, or you try to trick yourself into thinking like, all right, if I'm working in my with a tool or something, if I don't put that tool exactly where it belongs, I trick myself into thinking, all right, I can just put this here. I'll remember that the measuring tape is on the table and not in the drawer where it belongs. Right. And then before you know it, it's like, it should be here. You're never going to. I like what you said about taking that, the brain dump, or just taking that off, because you're documenting it or journaling it. It's like, all right, I'll remember to deal with it later. I don't have to deal with it right now.
Exactly.
It's going to be there when I come back.
Because the brain will keep reminding you, and that's one of the reasons why people can't sleep. The brain keeps waking them up with the worries, rather than saying, I already put it away, we'll deal with it tomorrow. And it helps the brain to calm and to feel like, okay, we can let it go for now.
And that constant reminder, that's not an indicator of a deeper problem or issue. That's natural.
Yeah, that's how our brain works. And it's supposed to work that way, to be efficient, to help us to remember things. But when we have too much, just like all this information overload, just because we can have it doesn't mean our brain can handle it. Just because we have 24-hour news cycle doesn't mean we're supposed to sit there for 24/7 and watch it. So, our brain is designed for certain things, not for like this modern life that we have going on with constant bombardment. Because it's like, oh, I got this, I got that. And plus, like you said, with ADHD, it's like, oh, then there's so many more things I got to worry about. You know what I mean? Coming at you. So it's hard. I'm sure you have to prioritize and keep yourself scheduled on things, so that you don't wander off.
Have you been looking at my own personal notes? My goodness.
Then we need to talk about this later.
These are all incredibly valuable points. You have cataloged these on the Cat Country website and on your Facebook page. You can go there, Courtney Kelley, and you're sharing this information. And just like you said, the limiting of time that you spend online, make good use of it, right? Go to the site where you're posting that.
Exactly. Go where I say, right?
Yeah.
You can go to catcountry.com. It actually will connect you to SoundCloud, and we have all of our segments there. We are doing the segments daily during Brian and Maddie's morning show,
Yep.
And it's at 6:15 and 8:30. But yeah, absolutely. You can just go to the website. If you can't catch it, when we're doing it on air, you can go and listen at your leisure online. And and I just think it's a great resource because there's so many things that we cover that there's bound to be something that you're going through that you're like, oh yeah, okay. Like just to hear that like other people are going through it too is like, okay, all right. Because it's like a roller coaster right now. One minute you're feeling like pretty good, and then the next minute you're like, what's going on? There's a lot. Yeah.
So last question I'll ask you, and I think this is maybe not be something people are thinking about.
Yeah.
How important is it for us to plan for when this is all over as to how we're going to reintegrate ourselves into life or the, I hate using the term the new normal, but these different ways or just whatever. How important is it for us right now to start, I don't know, prioritizing our list or saying, okay, I definitely want to do that. What role can that play in our mental health now?
Right. Well, I think that if you feel that you want to sit down and do some planning around maybe some questions you have, or you want to talk to work about some things, or there's some things that are brewing, again, kind of write them down and make a plan for that. What I'm cautioning people against is getting really worked up about what's going to happen in a month, because we don't have enough information. We're getting information when they get it. So it's kind of like as it goes. We have to. That's why it's so important to have all your positive coping and have your supports, because we need stamina to get through this. We need to pace ourselves. So if you are feeling calm and you're feeling like, hey, let me grab pen and paper, let me just kind of, think about some things that I want to do for some planning or things that I think may come up, that's great. But if you are feeling so overwhelmed and anxious that you're like, oh my gosh, and then this, and then that, and then what happens when I go to work? What's going to happen with this? And oh my gosh, that is not going to be healthy for you to sit in that space. Yeah. So what I encourage people is keep your focus on what you can control today. For the most part. Sometimes we do need to think about, okay, what's going to happen next week or these other things. But again, when you're feeling calmer, but for the most part, keep it in the now and keep it one step at a time. If you just need to go 5 minutes out, fine, 5 minutes out, an hour out, 10 minutes, a week, that's fine. Whatever is good for you and how you're feeling. So I say take an emotional temperature. Take your temperature of
Sure.
how you're doing with your anxiety and your moods and your anger and your irritation. If it's too much to take on right now, don't do it. But if you're feeling like the next day you're like, oh, I'm doing pretty good, I'd like to kind of brainstorm some ideas for when we get back to normal or that kind of thing. Okay, then that's great when you're feeling okay. But that's what I'm cautioning people. Don't go too far out. Don't worry for tomorrow yet. Stay here.
Keep it in the now, keep it in check, and keep it on Cat Country 98.1.
Hey, I like that.
Get that voice guy. Where is that?
And we got that guy.
Race right over to Bob. Hey, listen, we got it. She is Courtney Kelley from Cat Country 98.1. Courtney, people can keep in touch with you simply by going to your Facebook page. Really, that's the one central place to get you. Absolutely.
I also have a website and a blog. It has some, I do a little writing, Ben.
Look at you.
I dabble. People can go to CourtneyKelley.com. That's with an EY. Okay. You can also contact me through Facebook at Courtney Kelley Cat Country. And of course, right now, people are writing in if they have any questions or concerns they would like to have some feedback on for getting through all these times. Just go to catcountry.com and we have the Wellness 411 page, and you can email me through that.
It's so great that you guys are stretching yourself beyond and really just using this opportunity and everybody's individual talents. We're learning where different people excel and different people have training. You've seen that throughout the entire world, but especially here in Southern New England. Courtney, thank you so much for taking the time to join me.
Thank you. So much fun to hang out with you, Ben.
And I'm going to go get more ice cream now. So thank you for tuning in.